Steelers beat reporter for PennLive, and I'm John Luciew, Nick Farabaugh, well, we're live on Facebook once again, a little late because the 53-man roster, your 2025 Pittsburgh Steelers going forward, has been set, and there is some reason to celebrate, at least out here in Harrisburg, but there's plenty of controversy and question marks surrounding some of the cuts as well. For all of that and his first impressions of this roster, the cuts, and how far this team can go this season, let's go to Nick for your take, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, some of these cuts that we saw, some unexpected: Chuck Clark, James Pierre, um, Beanie Bishop. So they cut three different defensive backs, but it's going to change, right? This is just the initial 53. This is not going to be the week one roster. So guys like Clark and Pierre probably are going to circle back. Guys like Will Howard maybe going to go on IR. You mentioned Kent; he did make the team, but he was hurt. Maybe he goes on IR. There's a few guys here that could be IR candidates that are on the roster right now, and that could potentially push them up. My guess is they want to get those guys a practice in tomorrow. The Steelers practice tomorrow, and then we'll return on Monday for their practice against the New York Jets when they lead up to it. But for right now, that's kind of where the Steelers stand is, hey, we are kind of prioritizing young talent, and there's a few veterans that got cut that are probably going to be back. I mean, they only three safeties. Chuck Clark's almost certainly going to be re-signed. We expect them to keep six corners. I'm sure someone, maybe Dante Kent, goes on IR, and then boom, James Pierre's back. So wouldn't surprise me at all if this is what happens. The interesting things are kind of the O-line configuration one. They kept 8 defensive linemen. I think that's interesting. Obviously, Derek Harmon's injury probably factoring into that. But I think that's the first position group you look at and say, hey, where's the sixth wide receiver if they add somebody? D-line probably cutting one of those. Or where's the new offensive lineman? Or if they want a fifth safety or something like that, that's where it comes from because Will Howard probably ends up on IR. So we'll kind of see where things go, but it's an interesting conglomeration. No shockers here. I mean, Clark getting cut is a little bit surprising, but as long as he returns, I think it's not a shock at all to anybody.
Yeah, I'm seeing on social media a lot of controversy around the Beanie Bishop move. That we know he did get picked on a lot last year. We know they upgraded the corner room. Corey Trice, he went on IR already, right?
Yeah, he
Is
got
that
put
the
on IR.
deal? Yeah, so he starts on IR, but stays on. What do you think factored into the Beanie Bishop decision?
My guess is they want a really diverse set of corners that can play man to man, and I just don't think that's Beanie's game. I mean, Beanie is a zone corner. He's feisty in the slot. He's a good tackler, but what he is not is a good man coverage corner. And if the Steelers are going to want to blitz a lot, if they're going to want to play especially aggressive defensively, they need someone back there that can be man to man competent. And obviously, they have Jalen Ramsey, but even for the backup slot role, it seems like he got passed up by Brandon Eccles, and they've been pretty high on Dante Kent. So Kent, who I talked with Dante on Sunday, said, "Hey, I'm ready. I'm like back at full participation. So if he is there, maybe the Steelers want him as the backup slot, and he is a guy that has shown the more of an ability to play man to man. He plays inside out. He's a teamer. You don't get much special teams from Beanie either. It was the lack of versatility, the fact that he was just a slot corner, I think really hurt him a lot there. So flexibility." And then other players coming in that had versatility that could play the slot, I think really doomed Beanie Bishop.
And you mentioned Will Howard going on IR, and that would eliminate 4 quarterbacks on the 53 man. But how long can they stash him there, given the fact that Tomlin was talking up his progress and that, the hands looking good and, that kind of thing?
I mean, the Steelers did this last year twice. They did it with Roman Wilson and they did it with Logan Lee, which was, we're going to stash you guys on IR and that'll be that, right? We're not going to do anything crazy. We're just going to put you guys on IR and that'll be that. And maybe he returns in like December. I mean, that's the thing. Skylar Thompson played well enough to where the Steelers feel like they have a competent QB3, even if Will doesn't come back, right? So like if they need a QB2 or a QB3 at some point because they just get nagged with injuries, then sure, Will Howard, boom, can come right off IR. My guess is this is probably going to be similar to how they used Roman and Logan Lee and even Cole Holcomb last year, which was late in the year. They brought them off IR and they let them practice for 2 or 3 weeks, and that was that. And I think that's kind of what's going to happen with Will Howard if he goes on IR. I think the same thing, if they put Dante Kent there. So that's probably what's going to happen. It's going to be like a redshirt year, right? And just learn and watch, see what you can do, learn from that, and then next year come back stronger, ready for the summer. So that's kind of what I think is going to happen here with Will Howard going on injured reserve. But if Aaron Rodgers goes down, if they end up losing somehow one of the backups or the quarterback play is just not up to snuff, and they want to get a look at Will Howard, I do think he will come off IR. But here's the kind of caveat with kind of QB3. People are like, well, what about the reps he loses? I don't think people realize this. Like the QB3 does not get any team reps in practice during the year. It's solely the backup. Mason's going to run Mason is basically going to run the scout team for the most part, unless there's a more mobile quarterback. Then sometimes they'll bring someone in on the practice squad and they'll simulate that. But for the most part, what ends up happening is QB1 is obviously in there and runs. QB2 oftentimes sometimes gets some reps, more often than not is running the scout team, and then QB3 oftentimes is left to the dust. So that's kind of what people are like, Will Howard's going to lose some reps, he's not really going to run much. So that's going to be something to take into account as well with that decision.
We're getting some comments on the chat here. I just want to take a look at, since we're live on Facebook. Some no love for Beanie, couldn't cover, was worse tackler, no big loss. Skyler earned his spot. Some kudos to the number 3 QB, and some worry among those safeties. Like you said, you were scratching your head over Clark. 3 safeties is not enough. Cutting Castro and Clark makes no sense. But like Nick was saying, there are going to be some IR moves, and there's going to be some people brought back on the team that now appear as a cut. So don't fret until this all shakes out. How many days from now until you think things totally shake out, Nick, for this roster?
I think it'll shake out over the weekend because they got to be ready with their 53 going into the Jets game. So Monday is when they start prep for the Jets. They are going to have basically a miscellaneous practice tomorrow, which will be like all team development, skill development, and then they will get Thursday through Sunday off. It's like a league mandated thing. Everyone gets those days off over Labor Day weekend, and they are coming back Monday and will practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before they head to New York for their first game. So really, what basically is happening here is the Steelers are going to have a flurry of moves probably over the next 24 to 48 hours. We will see who gets put on IR, who gets cut. Waiver claims are going to come in here soon because everyone's getting cut. Those will be processed over the next day. So we'll see a lot of different things. You can still do trades, right? Can you trade for a wide receiver somewhere? Can you trade for an offensive lineman? You can do all these different things before the season starts. So they have the next 4 or 5 days here to really settle down this team, see where things go. But everything's going to be processed probably by Friday or Saturday. That's probably when we'll know the true Week 1 roster.
Speaking of trades, one of our viewers on YouTube inquires, is Skyler going to be trade bait, given how he showed out in the preseason? And we just saw Kenny Pickett get traded out of Cleveland to the Raiders. I mean, is that out of the question?
I mean, I don't think he's going to get traded, given that the fact that they are probably going to place Will Howard on IR. Now, it's totally possible that's being leaked to try and give them leverage. Okay, you could do that. But this guy played his tail off. I mean, he kind of earned that spot. He played extremely well in the preseason. We saw some things from Skylar Thompson we never saw in Miami. With his ability to throw the football down the field, with some of the great ball placement he showcased. So to me, what is likely to happen is honestly what I just said. Howard to IR, Thompson stays there. If Howard is going to be truly ready, and I don't think he's going to be very soon because he's still kind of working through things. He's going to be out for like another week and a half too, right? He would
Hmm.
probably be ready by week 1, but it would be close. So I do think the Steelers, where they're at right now, are just going to roll with Skyler. I mean, he would get maybe like a 6th-round pick. I'm just
Mm.
not sure if they view that as worth it given what they have.
Right. And of course, it wouldn't be social media without some outlandish comments. And I saw a couple people speculating why not just move Mason Rudolph since Skylar Thompson played so well in the preseason. How would you address that commenter?
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. I'm not really. It's not a crazy idea. I actually don't think it's crazy. You can go young and try and see those guys, and if you have to do that, fine. But I do think someone, saying Skylar Thompson's a better quarterback than Mason Rudolph is probably a little overzealous with that. It's not like Skylar Thompson hasn't played in regular season games. He has. He's played in 3 of them. Played in a postseason game too. Um, and listen, Rudolph would have a market simply because he's a competent veteran backup. Um, but I do think trading him is a little bit of if you are trying to have a high floor season, you don't trade the competent veteran backup. Even though
Right.
Skyler might be that, when he has played, he was bad. Like he was bad in Miami. They treated him like he couldn't run an offense, and maybe he can't. We saw this year, obviously, in the preseason that he looked great, but the preseason's a mirage, right? Like it's not always real. I think that's the thing here is like the preseason's a good sign, but it's not everything. Like, do you want to talk about Kenny Pickett, right?
Right.
Remember 2023? I mean, everyone's like, Kenny Pickett is the guy.
Right.
It's great that Skyler looked better than 3rd and 4th stringers. It's great, but it doesn't mean that much. And Mason, yes, he struggled in the one game, but he also had a very crisp drive against the Jaguars starters. We kind of know what Mason is. So yeah, I do think there's some. It's not a totally outlandish idea if you get the right offer,
Okay.
but I don't think it's like some absurd thing that they didn't make that move. For example.
Oh, absolutely. Well, especially when you have a 40 plus guy, as your starter, in Aaron Rodgers. And yeah, I just think clearly they are going for a playoff win in 2025. They want to break that drought and stop that conversation that we have entered a dead zone, a playoff postseason win dead zone, similar to what was occurred in with this franchise before the Immaculate Reception. I mean, that's how you have to go back that long to find the gap between playoff wins. I mean, that is sad. So yeah, and the other thing that really stands out on a day like today is how hard it is to build a playoff winning Super Bowl contending roster and how little contribution was made in the last 5 years under Kevin Colbert. I mean, it's just unmitigated disaster when you look, a couple more guys from his last draft were cut, and that was the worst quarterback draft ever when we took Pickett. I mean, those guys just keep getting knocked out of the league, and Pickett is now a journeyman QB, still in his rookie deal, and he was drafted in the first quarterback off the board in that year. So it's you kind of get depressed of how much was squandered, how many picks were squandered, how many guys have just cycled through here without any impact, when that used to be the signature for the Steelers, building through the draft. And Colbert, the best comment I've seen on social media today was the Steelers should bring back Colbert for one day just to fire him. I actually would get a kick out of that. Yeah, that's how depressed I can get when I think about just how many picks have been squandered.
Right, and that's the thing is they have struggled to consistently kind of draft and develop. Right, that's been the issue over the last decade or so. I mean, you look at some of these teams that they went to the playoffs with, and I get, plenty of criticism for Mike T, and I understand why. But like, let's keep it a buck here. These rosters sucked in some years. I mean, 2021 was not a great roster. In terms of 2023, when they actually went 9-8 and somehow made the roster. Not a great roster. Like those early Pickett teams, bad rosters. I mean, they just were. 2020 and 2018, I think good rosters, but 2019 injury depleted. So it's not just Kevin Colbert either. I mean, Mike T made those picks too. You got to put Mike T in there.
Well, absolutely.
Granted, they've had a philosophy shift with Omar Khan and Andy Weidel coming in, and it seems like we will see. It seems like the early indications are those drafts look a little better. So guys like Herbig, Washington, JPJ, Benton, those ones seem a little bit more encouraging. But I mean, let's just go through the 2022 draft. Pickett, Pickens, Leal, all gone. Pickens, good player, but obviously the off the field stuff caught up to him. 4th-round pick, Calvin Austin. I think that's a solid pick. Connor Hayward, they have Mark Robinson and Chris Oladokun. I mean, not a great draft. And those drafts really hurt the Steelers. And the development part is even more important because you think about guys like Kevin Dotson that went elsewhere, and he's now one of the better guards in the league. I mean, the Steelers didn't get out of that, right? The Steelers would have their 5 linemen of the future if they had drafted and developed Kevin Dotson the right way. They would have still had McCormick on one side, but then Dotson would have been on the other instead of Sayamalo. It would have been a young group with all 5 of their guys set for at least this year and maybe next. And so it's really, to me, a kind of, you look at how this team has to win, and you have to be able to draft and develop. And so these drafts over the past few years for the Steelers have been not just as much drafting starters, but accumulating organizational depth up the depth chart because they have lost so much of their draft picks over the past few years because they are poor draft picks. So we will kind of see how these things work out. But you go back and really look at the stretch from 2018 to 22. 2017, good draft, right? That was a good draft. You got TJ, you got Juju Smith-Schuster. You got a lot of guys out of that draft. Even the later rounds in that draft had some guys in there. But the early Omar kind of returns, so far there's some promise there. Even when you look at 24 last year, Zach Frazier had a great rookie year. Troy Fautanu hopefully looks good, but we'll see where he goes. But there's some early promise there with the first 2 drafts for Omar.
I agree. And just to put a lid on Colbert, for me, it was when that offensive line that had been great for a decade aged almost overnight. And I think it was around 2020. And Colbert had basically nothing in the cupboard. And then he goes out and drafts Kendrick Green as the heir apparent to Marquise Pouncey and puts him in front of Ben Roethlisberger, a waning, aging Ben Roethlisberger. I just thought that was an unforgivable sin. I'll just never get over that. To me, that was the low point in that era for the Steelers. It was bad. The comments continue to stream in. One that I caught my eye, and we talked about it last week, is the receivers room. How do you think it shook out, on the current version of this 53-man? And is there any sense that something more is going to be added to that room?
Can you repeat what position room you said?
The wide receiver room.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
wide receiver, to me, is a room that kind of feels like, listen, there's not a lot of guys out there. You look at kind of the rosters and the guys that were cut. There's not an obvious person. I mean, you look at like Mecole Hardman and Trayshawn Holden maybe and Martez Valdez-Scantling. Like, I mean, there's a few guys, but no one that's like, oh my goodness, that guy's the guy you need to go get. Could there be late trades? Could you maybe pluck someone from the Patriots who kept more wide receivers than they are going to have? Could you pluck a Kendrick Bourne maybe? Maybe. I will say the one thing I do feel like I really like, and this is the one player I really like, is Trey Palmer from Tampa. I would try and get him if you could. He's a different skill set, but 53 man, I don't know. Maybe if you can convince him to come on the PS and then maybe elevate him for a game or two, a la Ben Skowronek last year, I'd be okay with that. Right now, though, not a lot of guys out there. I know Jacoby Myers is someone out there. I don't think he's going to get traded. Maybe you can pick Lazard out of the Jets room. I don't know. But it doesn't feel like a lot of teams are looking to move their wide receivers right now. And then wide receiver, free agency wise, you kind of have Gabe Davis still out there, but his knee seems like it is not in a good place medically. So it's tough. So I mean, maybe what happens is the Steelers do what they did last year, which is they go at the trade deadline and get somebody. When you know someone like a Jalen Tolbert or an Alan Lazar will far likelier be available than they are now. I'm sure they're going to continue trying to land someone. Maybe you can even get into the Adam Thielen sweepstakes. That's been one that the Panthers and Vikings have talked about. Maybe you can get in there. But to me, there's not really a guy out there outside of Palmer that I really would like. And I'm not even saying Palmer's going to be kind of someone that I would love to have on my 53. He's someone that I would at least look at. But there's a lot of different things that the Steelers could look at. But I don't think any of them are like super likely right now. So they probably are just going to ride with their 5 right now, barring an unforeseen deal.
Some buzz here in the comments for Jacoby Myers, but is that just a lot of smoke and no fire there?
I mean, listen, I think the Steelers are probably interested in that, but you got to think about one, cost, and you got to think about two, why would the Raiders trade him?
Hmm.
Like the Steelers right now, I do feel like would love to have him, but from what I've heard, they're asking for a day 2 pick, and you're crazy if you think the Steelers are trading any of their day 2 picks next
Mm.
year, for obvious reasons. They want to have as much draft capital as they can, not only for a trade up, because those early round picks matter, not the late round ones, but the early round ones. But you need to have enough picks to supplement the roster if you're going to make that move, right? And I think that is the key thing when you look at it is you have to have enough picks if you trade up to still fill your other roster holes. The Steelers are going to have a lot of cap space, and that will help. But you still need to be able to draft, what is probably going to be a left guard, right? Sayamalo in the last year of his deal. Do you need another running back? Wide receiver, you're going to want to add to that room. So you're going to be able to add a lot of different things to the to the roster before the draft, but you're not going to be able to fill everything, especially your depth needs. So you still need to make sure you have enough picks to do all of that as well.
A plug for Hunter Renfro. Any interest there, Nick?
Not another slot receiver. They don't need that. Alec Pierce is a good shout. He's a really interesting player that maybe the Steelers could pluck out of Indy. Deep threat, big-bodied outside guy. I actually think they could potentially go out and get him, maybe for a 5th-round pick. I would do that deal in a heartbeat. He's a young player too. It's not like you're doing a 1-year patch job with that. You could potentially go out there and fix a hole. So if they can get Alec Pierce, that is exactly who I would go after if he's available.
Okay. As we're talking about what's out there, what you can bring into the room, let's talk about the room as it currently is constituted. How will those wide receivers currently on the 53-man be deployed in this Arthur Smith offense?
Yeah, man. I mean, these 3 tight ends are going to be huge, right? These 4 tight ends because Connor Hayward's there. So this is going to be a tight end centric offense. I mean, that's what's going to be. We talk about tight ends. It's going to be the big thing. So how much does like the wide receiver 2 matter in the Arthur Smith scheme? I'd like to call Arthur Smith's scheme archaic because I think it truly is that way. He runs the ball a lot. It's a tight end heavy offense. It's like it came straight out of like the late 2010s in some respects. It is what Sean McVay ran in 2019 if it was never updated. That's what it is. So, yeah, I mean, I would look at, someone like Jonnu Smith, for example. Big time kind of receiver. He's going to be split out, not as much in line. He's going to be a player that is going to be significant in what they do. My thing with the receiver room in this equation is kind of how do you wrap it into 12 personnel? Who is the second wide receiver in 12? I think it's probably Roman Wilson right now, but they don't have a big body blocker that is just a hoss. And I think that would be somebody that they would like. Ronick can be that, but he's just not enough of a wide receiver threat. That's why Gabe Davis made at least some sense. And so, I mean, we'll see kind of where things go, but those tight ends are going to be huge. They're going to play 13, 12, 14, 04, all those different personnels. I think they're going to use a little bit of multiple running backs as well. I think we're going to see guys like Kenneth Gainwell get significant run in this offense. So the Steelers are de-emphasizing the wide receiver position with Arthur Smith as their OC, but I still think they need to find that right mix. They have the speedy guys that can stretch the field horizontally and vertically. You have Scotty and Calvin that can win deep. You have Roman Wilson that wins on those crossers. It's just going to kind of be, who is the guy that is going to be like, if DK gets hurt, what in the world are you going to do for your size outside? They need another guy with size. That's what they need.
Yeah, I mean, this offense, the way it's looking to me, is going to be all predicated on finding the mismatch, and they think they have better mismatches with the three tight ends. That seems pretty clear.
Yeah, it is going to be the literal kind of 100% thought process is, we're going to spread you out. We're going to condense you. We're going to do a lot of different things. And what you're going to do is you're going to have to figure out what to do with it. And so the Steelers are absolutely going to look at utilizing Jonnu Smith as a receiver, splitting out Pat Freiermuth, bringing in guys like Darnell, where they can kind of put him inside and outside. I mean, I understand the vision. I just don't love the offensive philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
More and more teams like McVay and Shanahan and teams like this, that are really good OCs, are utilizing spread formations out of 11 more than they are condensed and spread formations out of 12 and 13. It's a weird way to go about it. Running the ball is very important. I'm just not sure, if you can win only. I don't know how you're going to come back down 14 if you don't have the receivers to run that herd. And I think that's the significant worry I have with this offense, is even if they had the receiver talent, they just don't like to play 11. Like, it's weird.
Right. I hesitate to even speak his name, but believe it or not, Nick, a argument over Deontay Johnson has broken out in the chat. Should we bring him back? People say he can kick rocks. I mean, never bring this guy back. I mean, that would even cross a Khan's mind, would it?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
That divorce was not cordial. I don't know if people know exactly what happened there, but they traded him because of how he was off the field, not on the field, and he's not coming back. It's not happening.
Right. No, that's a relief there. Looking at the injury status on the defense, you said Herbig might not be available for week 1, and we know Derek Harmon is probably not available. So give us, as we're getting close to being a week out, from actual regular season action, how healthy are we looking for week 1 in the NFL?
They're pretty banged up. So here's a few things. And if you watched my Steelers Rewind, I recapped a good bit of this. Obviously, Trice is going to miss time the first 4 games with his hamstring now that he's on IR. Benton had an upper body issue. He was back at practice yesterday. I think he's okay. Jonnu has some sort of lingering knee thing. Again, practicing. Okay, we'll see how he looks on the field, but he'll probably play. Derek Harmon not practicing, probably out. Highsmith fully back at practice. Sounds like he's going to be ready for week 1. The big question mark right now is Nick Herbig. Had that hammy issue. He's not been practicing. He's not even been working off to the side. So we will see how he kind of comes about on that. So his doubt, I have doubts he's ready for week 1. We'll see if they can ramp that up. But Nick Herbig's, I think, the one in danger. Will Howard is progressing in the right direction. Outside of that, I mean, they don't have a ton of injuries on this team. Overall, they're relatively healthy, but it does feel like they could be without Nick Herbig and Derek Harmon, which would not be great.
Okay. Well, we're getting close to the half-hour mark, which is what we try to do here on the Tuesday podcast. And we want you to know we're finally getting to that point where we're going to get into the regular rhythms and cadence of the regular season. So that means we're going to try to do the live broadcast on Tuesdays closer to 4 o'clock. And certainly for this coming Tuesday, Tomlin, I assume, is going to have his regular Tuesday press conference setting up all of those injuries as we head to New York to face the Jets, actually New Jersey, the Meadowlands. But is it safe to say we're going to be closer to the regular season rhythm next Tuesday? Is that what you're thinking, Nick?
We will be, so 4 o'clock be here.
Okay.
But also, I'm just really looking forward to regular season ball. I'm ready. Preseason's preseason. Don't take all your stock into the preseason and the training camp stuff. So this should be fun. And I'm really looking forward just to kind of seeing how some guys take the steps from preseason to regular season, like YA Black, who had a great preseason.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. Really interesting stuff. This team's fascinating this year. It is truly one of the more fascinating teams in the NFL. So let's see how they go. And you got a juicy one week 1, right? Justin Fields. How about it?
Absolutely. Can't wait. I have him in my fantasy team and I'm playing him against the Steelers. I don't know if I'm crazy or not, but that's for a different episode. But certainly stick with Nick as the Steelers tweak this roster and see what else is out on the market and in waivers. And next Tuesday, 4:00, live on YouTube. It's the regular season. Nick will be fresh from the Tomlin press conference. We'll have all the injury reports. We'll start talking about the matchup, and we'll take all of your questions and comments and incorporate them into the show as we try to expand that live audience every Tuesday at 4 p.m. as the Pittsburgh Steelers begin the 2025 campaign. Go Steelers.